Well, there's a whole lot of something around here. There's been a whole lot of giving around here. We've seen a whole lot.
I think it's because I think this has happened to a lot of people, to be honest, to some degree or another, that we have some sort of personal connection to some of the music that we like to go see, especially if it's local, because bands will hang around the bar after they finish their set and somebody else is up, and you get 5 minutes with the drummer, or 10 minutes with the guitarist, and you get to talk to them for a minute, and you kind of like who they are, and it forms some sort of personal significance in your life, and that just seemed to happen many times over for you. So I'm sure it wasn't going anywhere, it just always stuck with you.
Yes.
At some certain point, though, you somehow find yourself in the business side of music, or you have some sort of change in your life. Like, what happens to make you consider?
Yeah. So I'm with Anderson. It was Arthur Anderson. While I was there, it became Anderson Consulting, one of the divisions of the company. That company is no longer, Anderson Consulting is now called Accenture. Mm-hmm. The rest of the company is defunct because of activities that they were doing improperly. Mm-hmm. That was one of the at the time, it was one of the big six accounting firms. The accounting portion of that company no longer exists.
Gotcha.
Because of improprieties. The consulting division branched off and became Accenture. I was about to get assigned to either the New Zealand Stock Exchange, the German Stock Exchange, or one other big project that was gearing up. And I was sitting in the New York office, and my dad gave me a call and said that there was a new chemical formulation for a company that he founded. He had a partner in St. Louis, and he worked in New Orleans. They were 50-50 owners of this company, and they invited me and his partner's son to join the company. Mm-hmm. So I happened to be in this moment in my life where I was sitting in the New York office waiting for the Anderson to gear up enough people, accumulate enough people, so that they could start a new project. And my dad happened to call me during that time and said, we could use your business experience, your master's, what you've learned. So I chose to, I'm trying to recall, let's see, so I was recently married at that point.
I was going to ask, how old are you at this time?
That was in 1989. So I got married in 88 to my late wife. I was 26 years old.
Okay.
And I moved to New Orleans. My late wife happened to be from New Orleans.
Okay.
And was living in New York City, and happened to live in the same building in New York City. And I mentioned I had spent most of my time working in, a year and a half of the 3.5 years I was in New Jersey with different clients. So my weekends were like come to New York and chill and go hear music, go to see Art Blakey or Winton or whoever. And so we ended up meeting and getting married eventually, about not too long, didn't take long. But because I met and had married a New Orleans girl, mm-hmm. the conversation of, hey, do you want to move to New Orleans, worked out for her. She had grandparents here, and my parents were here. We moved to New Orleans.
Your father's business was initiating this. Y'all hadn't discussed that before, that time?
We hadn't really ever discussed my joining him in the business.
Or moving.
To
Gotcha.
New Orleans. It just happened to be that I was sitting in New York waiting.
Wow.
So that summer, sometime July 1989, I think we started July. I think I came in on July 4th weekend, and I started working. And so did my dad's partner's son, same time. The two of us, 2 and 2 in the different offices, mm-hmm. 50-50 corporation. So I came to work, and we started having a family. And the first of our kids was born in 90, and then 92, and then 94. And from 1989 to 1997, I worked on what's now maybe still called the sulfur-treat company. Sulfur-treat was a chemical that purified, that was natural gas passed through the chemical. And with the hydrogen sulfide is a contaminant, deadly poisonous gas that is naturally found in a lot of natural gas that's produced.
Yeah.
Once the 90s rolled around, natural gas prices were high enough that treating it and using it for fuel became sour gas, what's called sour gas containing hydrogen sulfide. It became economical to treat it and use it. Previous to that, it would probably just get flared.
Gotcha.
So I was the technical services manager. I was working with our chemists to model the performance of the chemical, figure out what size vessels the chemical needed to be in, how tall they needed to be, how wide they needed to be, so that the gas contacted the chemical for the right amount of time to bring the percentage of the hydrogen sulfide down to an acceptable level so that it wasn't corrosive and could be used. There's other processes in natural gas treating that you have to remove water, you got to remove carbon dioxide. So when you see these gas plants, they've got all these different pressure vessels.
Sure.
That's what all that's about. So we would model all that stuff and tell them where they needed to go. That's the kind of work I was doing for 9 years.
What a complete 180 from what you were doing previously.
Yeah, and I was traveling to places like Venezuela and Mexico City,
Wow.
East Texas, West Texas, Bakersfield, California, Erie, Pennsylvania, wherever. And then I actually started looking at things like wastewater treatment plants and chicken farms and livestock, wherever there was landfill gas and wherever there was lots of chicken poop.
Yeah, I think. Yeah.
So we were looking at lots of different ways to use this chemical, a proprietary and patented chemical.
Yeah.
But during those 9 years, I also, my father and I began to fight quite a bit with our partners. And it was 9 years of, eight out of the 9 years, there was a lot of litigation between us.
Oh, wow.
And although there was finally a payday and we sold the company, we also, fortunately, there was a good balance between the two families, actually. As looking back in hindsight, it was painful at the moment, but my father and I were not independently wealthy. They were. They wanted to build plant, property, equipment, put all the money back into the business. My father and I needed some income. There was just, it was just the things you deal with partners.
Sure.
And every chance I've had to talk to high schoolers or college students or be a mentor, I've been a mentor at Loyola University for entering freshmen. I say, when you go into business, if you don't need a business partner, don't have a business partner.
Right.
And if you do have a business partner, and this goes for today with bands and everything else, if you need a business partner, and you might need it if you're putting together a band, you need to have an arrangement for how are you going to separate things when you are done. In my father and our case, we spent a lot of money on lawyers, and it was painful. But that experience throughout all of that made me realize when I got done that I wanted to find something that was a lot more fun to do.
Sure.
So toward the end, we felt for the last few years like we were 6 months away from selling the company, and it took a while. It seemed like we were always 6 months away.
Subscribe now